Welcome back to another episode of 40K Fanatics, a podcast where we teach you how to make love. Wait, Slanesh got me, Casey. Slanesh snuck up on me. That's not what we do here.
Are you saying that you've fallen and you can't get up? Click, click.
I've fallen for those girly boys of Slanesh.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Hopefully we can hit on them soon. So today, what are we talking about, Shane?
I think it's a lore video today. Or a pod today. Why do I want to call them videos? I want a camera set up. I want them to see our faces.
You know, I was thinking about that too. I was thinking about what if we did a live stream on top.
I think that would be hard.
I mean, I've got the setup for it. Just use my iPad and I'm done on Twitch. Done.
Yeah, maybe. Full disclosure, the Grimdark Garage is on hiatus. We are now in the Grimdark painting cave, Casey's paint cave. At any moment, Casey's spawn may awaken, at which point there will likely have to be a cut because we will get interrupted.
The gene seed is real, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, it is vibrant.
Potent.
Yeah. It gets on everything. This is the dimmest painting studio that I have ever seen. I don't know how your eyes don't fall out of your head.
I got a ring light.
A ring light.
I'm thinking about getting
It's not enough. Guys, review the podcast, rate the podcast, share the podcast, so that one day we can get some money from somebody so that Casey can have a whole light bulb in the ceiling before he goes blind.
So, let's talk about Gamers Fest.
Yeah, we got to knock that out. That's going to be, and I should have got my notes out, but it's coming soon. By the time you get this, it will be the next weekend.
Yeah, today's the 8th, right?
I feel like it's the 21st through the 23rd. It's NEA Gamers Fest at the Hilton Garden Inn in Jonesboro, Arkansas, benefiting the Friends of the Library, a charitable organization. And they're going to have a lot of things. They're going to have a 40K tournament, a GT 2-dayer. It starts at 9 a.m.
Pretty early.
I don't think I got the juice to play in the 9 a.m. one.
On a weekend?
On a weekend.
Yeah, because you're a night owl, right?
Well, my quote-unquote work happens on the weekends, starting about 8, 9 o'clock.
Got a night lord over here.
Yeah, I feel like it would be a stretch. However, they have a painting contest that's been announced, and you guys would have heard about him last week, but I think Jerry the GIF, or Gary the GIF.
Or Gary the GIF, yeah.
May make an appearance, which he is very, very small, and I imagine there will be big, spectacular models in competition. But not only that, they've got a play-to-win rack of various board games and other things, and if you participate, you get put into the drawing to win those games, which is really cool.
It's like games like tabletop games like Munchkin and stuff like that, right?
All kinds of stuff. And they're going to have D&D one-shots. They're going to have Star Wars Shatterpoint demos. They're going to have the 40K, like we said. It's going to be a good time. Tickets are $40 online and $50 at the door, and we need to get our tickets here pretty soon.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good time. A lot of people are going to go. A lot of people in our 40K community are psyched for the event. But, man, 2 days of 2K games. Oh, man, my feet hurt just thinking about it.
Let's get into the bits box.
All right, get in the bits box.
Open that thing.
Yeah, we're already kind of in there. Let's open it all the way.
Do your sound effect. I like you as a part sound. See? That's good. That's good.
Open.
Do you have any other sound effects?
Whoop-bam.
You do an explosion?
Something like that. I don't know.
There we go. That's Casey. If we don't make it as podcasters, he's going to be a
next Police Academy reboot. Let's go.
Ridiculous. So I want to ask you a question about your bits box. You got to play a 2K game with the cards, with the Leviathan pack and all that. Yeah.
Yes, right before they updated all the points and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. How'd that go?
It went pretty good. This flowed smoothly. Me and you've done a 1K game before, and it was pretty intuitive. I tried to do a little bit of research beforehand, but I didn't have too much prep time. the points have changed. So unfortunately, whereas I used to have a few models or units I would leave out, now I am using everything that I have. So it's kind of, used to be 2K, you just would formulate, strategize, put all your models in, and you have your army. Now if you're a little less, it's kind of like if you're in my seat, throwing in everything you got, you can't really strategize. You just use everything but the kitchen sink, and that can leave you open.
Did you play strategic or tactical on your objectives, on your secondaries?
I think I played tactical.
Yeah, that's where you draw.
Yeah, I drew, and then I tried the gambit, and the gambit did not pay off.
No, the gambits are tough. You know,
they are.
You have a good army playing orcs to do the gambits because 2 of the gambits require a minimum of 4 units to get it done.
Yes.
By turn 5.
And some of them, the lower model or unit count that you have by the end of the game, it benefits you more. Which, me being an orc player, that you played games against me. How many units do I have left at the end of the game on a 1K anyways?
Yeah, I think there's one of them that you can get by with less, but 2 of them you have to have a minimum of 4 units because you have like this target score you've got to get to. And so I have, since the last time we did a podcast, because the timeline has never been worse. And just
it's getting a little bit better. We're a little closer.
Fair warning. Next week or the week after, you will get what is now a very old podcast, but it'll be new to you and new to us because we don't remember what we talked about.
It's Kill Team. Well, Kill Team's the only one we got left.
Yeah, the Kill Team is good. Is that the only one we have left in pocket?
Yes, it is.
Oh, boy. We're going to have to get back on the ball.
Yeah, we could probably re-record it. We could.
We could. We might need to put something at the front end just to warn
we could play a game of Kill Team.
The good people. I would love to play a game of Kill Team.
I'd do it.
But anyhow, what was I talking about?
Oh, your Bitsbox. You're about to come into your Bitsbox about 2K games.
Oh yeah, I've played 3 games since last time that we played.
He's been busy, guys.
I've played against the homie Austin's Astra Militarum twice, and we're 1-1 now in 10th edition. I have not had turn 1 in a 10th edition game.
You know, I heard that was a slobber knocker, a real drag out, beat down kind of game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Both of them have been. Then I played the homie Ricky's World Eaters. All of these games took place over at friendly local game store Gamers Haven over in my hometown.
Hey, blood for the blood god.
Yeah, and again, I did not have first turn in that either. And I had never played World Eaters, and I deployed like you deploy, expecting some level of shooting to take place. And he literally advanced some stuff forward and then was like, okay, I'm charging this guy. I'm like, what about the whole rest of the game? He's like, yeah, I don't do that.
Oh, no.
and let me tell you, he had me for a while.
Yep.
And then Abaddon dropped in and proceeded to start deleting stuff. Harkin and his now 10 Raptors also wrecking shop.
And you fought a Baneblade, right?
Yeah, against Austin and his Astra Militarum. So that's twice now that the Baneblade has been dealt with by Abaddon and his Terminators. This time he lasted till turn 4 with that thing. And, I mean, he won. I didn't get first turn. Like I say, I've not had first turn yet in a 10th edition game. And Austin's list of tanks was really cooking from the jump. And so it put me on the back foot, and it led to a really clunky game for me throughout. However, at the very end, turn 5, Abaddon could have, because of the secondaries that I drew, could have advanced, used my Mark of Slaanesh CP stratagem to advance and charge. He could have possibly wiped out a unit of like 15 guardsmen, thereby getting me 2 secondaries and end-of-game primary points, and I would have won. So, even though it didn't go right, it was still there. The dream was alive, and then I rolled a 1 on the advance, which was in the
don't
theme.
You hate when that happens?
It was in the theme of the entire match for me. But I bring those details up to mention that if you're standing around talking to people, there is a ton of discussion about what is and is not broken in the game currently.
Yeah, it's a lot up in the air.
Well,
because we're still figuring it out.
But then when you go play games against people, I have not had one that's not close.
Yes, I agree with that.
Like, they're close in points. They're close in feel. I mean, I think, and, you know, if you're a listener of the podcast, I start to say long time, but I don't think we can say long time yet. But at some point, you guys will just be sick of me talking about this. But if you go looking for broken stuff, you will find broken stuff.
Definitely.
However, the Aldari have now been patched, we can call it.
Yeah, they recently updated all the points, which, you know, I feel bad because all those cards are getting thrown out.
No, the cards are fine.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, the points aren't on the cards. Which also, since the last time we talked, the cards came out.
Yes.
So
we've been talking about that for weeks.
Man, let me tell you, the cards are such a game changer. I love them. I love the cards.
Cards look cool, man.
Man, they look cool. They've got great art on them.
They look like tarot cards.
They're bigger than that. They're
pretty big.
They're nice. They're nice. And then the Leviathan pack cards. Now, I will say, in my box of Leviathan card pack, there are like 3 cards that have the wrong backs.
Oof.
Come on, GW.
I have heard about that.
It doesn't affect anything, but you have to go through and sort them by the actual front of them, because otherwise you'll have like a secondary mission off with your mission rules. Yeah. So, guys, check your card packs, because you could be having some silliness going on there.
Other than that, 10th so far looks good. It feels good.
But the Aldari got dealt with specifically, where now you can't do. You can only do
a lot of talk about them lately.
You can only do A strands of fate dice once per phase. So the issue before was you could take a model that had a devastating wounds thing, which would make 6s on the wound roll do mortals. Okay. So what you could do is you could say, all right, this guy's going to attack you, and you could say, let's say he had sustained hits as well.
Okay.
You'd say, I'm going to use a 6. And now it's a crit to hit. Now it turns into 2 wound rolls. And then you say,
oh, no.
Here's a couple strands of fate dice.
Oh, no.
You know, if you have
and
more 6s.
you're just dealing mortals.
And then you're dealing mortals. And what people would really do is they would hit with something, because some of those guns will hit on a 2. So they roll the hit. And then they say, okay, now I wound on a 6 automatically. You don't have to roll anything. And then they would say, here comes the damage. Another 6. So that's 6 plus whatever mortals. Thank you. Good night.
Gosh.
Well, now.
No wonder they were getting banned from tournaments.
Yeah. But of course, if you do that, then that's 2 of your fate dice. How many 6s could you have possibly rolled?
Exactly.
But anyhow, now they've changed it where you can only use 1 fate dice per turn. So now you could say, okay, I'm going to use it on the wound to get the devastating wounds.
Okay.
But now you're going to roll your damage, and you could still roll a 1. Like I always do when I roll for D6 damage.
Yeah.
Without fail.
I think yeah.
So that's good. And I was talking to the guys the other day after my game, and we were discussing these things, you know, and it seems the discussion is most often always about what's broken, what's not broken, what doesn't work, what should work.
Somebody's always going to complain.
Yeah, it's a lot of like negativity and complaining, and I said, guys, there were 3 or 4 of us. I said, have any of you played against Aldari? They were like, no. I'm like, me neither.
Exactly.
I was like, have any of you guys played against...
Don't complain unless you
some other sort of meta, meme list? They're like, no. I'm like, okay. So what are we talking about?
Exactly.
My point with all this...
Be a good sport.
Well, I think just concentrate on the positives. Because rule of cool list, the points seem to work out really well. So,
all right, cool.
I think that may be the end of my bits. Oh, I painted a Master of Executions because
and it looks good.
Because I tell you what though, I'm running out of characters for Chaos Space Marines to paint, and I love to paint me some characters.
Yeah, all you guys out there, check out the Twitter, check out our socials. I posted
at 40K Fanatics.
Yeah, I posted all his pictures about his executioner on there. So really check those out because we work really hard and we appreciate all the commentary that you guys provide on that stuff. You know, a lot of real painters who are commissioned and work professionally, they're actually hitting us up on Twitter and like talking back and forth to us about this stuff. It's really cool.
Man, you know what's wild is my new recipe for Chaos Space Marine armor. I've removed a step.
Okay.
I had been doing like an undercoat thing, dry brushing white and all this kind of thing, and then really thinning down some contrast black.
And they look good.
They look good that way. Well, I've taken out that contrast black entirely and just going butt naked with the white dry brush over the top. And just letting the undercoat go maximum shine through type stuff.
You're a huge fan of the highlights from what I see.
I am. I don't like a brown looking model.
Yeah.
And so I am not the greatest highlighter in the world, and I'm certainly a poor blender. And so I just try to go loud because these models are very, very small.
Yeah, and going loud is always a good path to go when it's these models, because if you can see it from across the room, you're doing something right.
Yeah, I mean, I just think you see so many armies that look very, very
bland,
muted.
Yeah,
and
there's some appeal to that.
And then maybe you pick them up and look real, real close, but the majority of the time, you or anyone you're playing with or talking to, they're not going to be looking that close.
Exactly.
So even if up close it looks a bit gaudy makeup, that's okay, because at 2 feet away, it's going to look like, oh, I can see there's stuff going on. So anyway, this is not a painting pod. We did that last week.
Closing the bits box?
Let's close it.
Closing that bits box.
Hit the sounder.
So, clink. So today we're talking about lore.
What are you going to teach me? Because I don't know anything.
Well, today we're going to be talking about the Fallen.
I don't know S about F.
The Lost Sons of Caliban, the Lost Sons of the Lion. As a lot of you have probably listened to, our #1 podcast so far on the downloads is the Lion episode we recently did.
When in the timeline did that happen?
It just apparently in the last week or two, it surpassed in downloads. It is now almost a 30+ downloads.
I don't even know when it came out.
Oh, it came out last Friday. Not 2 days ago, but the week before that.
The timeline, man.
Well, we talked about it, and we said we'd do it, but
have really got into our
people
whole
really
deal.
love the Lion.
Well, the Lion's cool.
And
does he have a model?
He does have. He has 2 models. So
he has one of the best models.
So Shane, tell me what you know about this faction. We're talking about the Fallen today. What do you know about these guys?
As I understand the Fallen, they are Luther's squad from Caliban that went with him when the Lion was getting too much attention.
Yes. And no, but yeah, you're right. You're right.
I'm in the ballpark.
Yes. You're in the ballpark, and if you're overviewing it, you got it. So what I like to understand about some of these yes, A-, 100%. You did great, man. So with these 40K factions, I like to put myself into a certain mindset so I can understand them a little bit better. And I think with this mindset, you have to understand what the Dark Angels were before the 40K setting to understand what they are now, especially the Fallen. So, as you said, they are Luther's squad. Before the Lion came, these guys were the first, the proud, the original Space Marines. They fought in the Unification Wars, so early days, before any other Space Marines. Then after that, they were around our solar system until the Emperor decided to go do his Great Crusade. They kept the gate. And then after that, they pushed out as far and as fast as they could, fighting everything around the edges of the Imperium. The Emperor said, there's a monster. You see that Cthulhu thing over there? What's that bat thing? Go over there and delete it. The Dark Angels were, the older brothers. They were in charge of stuff. They taught the other Space Marines how to be Space Marines, and they flourished. But then once everybody else started getting their Primarchs, that's when they started to lag behind. Everybody were like, we don't need to know how you guys fight or how to fight in general because we have our own special way to fight. Gilliman being tactful, the Word Bearers being diplomatic, the World Eaters flying in just savage, or the Space Wolves just going in and butchering everything that casts spells. But they got kind of lost. They were spread very thin. They always wanted to be the first one, and they were known for going in as fast as hard, guns blazing, losing heavy casualties, and losing their leaders until the Lion showed up.
Now, the Dark Angels of this stage, they're Space Marines, or they are
Space Marines.
Warriors of Caliban?
They are this was before the Lion, so this was them being mostly from Terra.
Okay.
And you'll notice a big theme with Space Marines coming from Terra. They take pride in it, and they have more loyalty to the Emperor than their Primarch.
I see.
And that comes into play here. Like I said, mindset.
Right.
So, the Lion takes over, rearranges their organization, reunites all of the sons of him, all the Dark Angels that are spread throughout the galaxy, mostly by finding the biggest guy in charge and then punching them in the face in a duel, just like in prison. And, he took over. So that's when you get him and Luther coming into play.
Right. And Luther is a regular dude.
Luther is a regular dude. He has been elevated. He is almost Space Marine, but he's not because he was too old.
Okay.
So he's elevated, he's stronger, but he does have the skill to pay the bills. So, I mean, a samurai is going to fight a big hulking armored knight. Who's going to win? The guy who's probably got more experience.
Right.
So, and what do you know about Luther?
Luther was the leader of the Caliban dudes.
Yep, the Order.
Yeah. And then just ends up playing second fiddle by default when the Lion rocks up wrecking shop.
Exactly.
Because he's just better.
Yeah, he's a Primarch. I mean, he's humanity.
He's literally 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
Exactly. He's humanity personified. He is the extreme. And Luther, a little bit of a grudge. They were best friends. He was his mentor, his sort of a father figure, more like an older brother figure. And then the Lion and him took charge of the Dark Angels, restructured them, fixed them. They proved that they needed to be in charge multiple times. And then came that fateful day when the Horus Heresy broke out. They made a name for themselves. They were too far out to really do anything that mattered, and that was all to Horus's plan. Horus attacks Terra. The Emperor gets wounded. Horus and a lot of other Primarchs die or go missing. The traitors run into the Eye of Terra to escape into the warp, and then the Lion's like, I'm going to take my ball and go home.
Yeah.
And then he just blew up every single traitor Primarch homeworld he could find.
And at that point,
he
leaves, huh?
He gets to his
forest world thing?
Yes. He comes back. He finds Luther and his boys at Caliban. And previous to this, which I guess I accidentally skipped over.
Well, this is the part that I was going to attempt to fill in if I've got it right.
Go again. Fill it.
So once the Lion disappears into his little forest world slumber, then Luther and his squad have sort of fill the power vacuum, but they're out on the entire thing.
You see, before the Horus Heresy, somebody tried to assassinate the Lion by sneaking a nuke onto his ship. Luther and a couple Space Marines won and stopped the whole thing from happening. Unfortunately, Luther hesitated and thought, you know what, I could be the Primarch of the Dark Angels. But then he was like, no, I got to stop this. That's crazy. So he gets rid of the bomb, blows it up outside the ship, and they do suffer some damage. But the Lion, being a fair guy and believing in action, speaking louder than words, didn't want to show favoritism to Luther or those Space Marines and sent them all back to Caliban and said, train new Space Marines until we figure something else out. But he did it in a way,
he sidelined
it wasn't negative and it wasn't positive. So they automatically said, he's mad at us.
Well, I mean, this is a thing that competitive people do, right?
Exactly.
Is you take your basketball starting five, and then you decide this guy needs to come off the bench instead. So he's sixth man. Yeah. And he'll be sixth man of the year, and he'll get a bonus on his contract and everything. But that dude is like,
he's going to get big for his britches.
Well, and regardless of whether it works better or not with him just coming off the bench, he's like, I'm not starting. You might as well trade me.
Exactly.
It's like, but this is a helpful synergistic arrangement now.
Yep.
It's like, don't care.
Yeah. So the Lion sends them home. The Horus Heresy happens, and he destroys all these Primarch planets. And he's like, let's get reinforcements. Heads back to Caliban, and he sees Luther and all of his own Caliban knights that he had left there, as well as the new recruits that they had found. And they start shooting. Well, actually, this is up for debate, because if you're looking from the point of view of the fallen, they don't know who fired first. And this is important to remember because Luther fell to chaos.
Well, we both know that Han shot first.
Yeah, so he got corrupted. They kind of like found that weakness and just twisted it in his mind.
It happens to me at the start of every podcast.
It's just like Star Wars. Somebody falls to the dark side because they got a grudge to bear, or maybe they want to save somebody at all costs.
Well, when you mentioned how Luther was the mentor and father figure to the Lion, but then by the end becomes more of an older brother. I mean, that is absolutely the tragedy of Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Exactly. Yeah, it was just like Anakin and Obi-Wan fight each other.
Yeah. Because at the end, Obi-Wan does not say, "You were like a son to me."
Yeah.
And this is a part
you were my brother, Anakin.
Yeah. And this is a part that does not get enough attention, I feel like, when people are like, how great were the prequels?
Well, if you watched Obi-Wan, if you watch the show Obi-Wan, I think, they kind of got that across.
I don't think they got anything across in that show, but that's another podcast episode entirely.
I love that metaphor, though. I'm going to use it forever. It was just like Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah.
But the Lion, being the guy he is an animal. He does not believe in social interaction. He's borderline autistic, if you ask me. If you simple things like saying good morning to somebody in the morning. He does not understand why you would waste the effort to do something.
Same in the morning. Same Lion.
He doesn't see the point in things. And it even continues to the modern day. Anyways, he gets to Caliban. Somebody shoots first. And then all bets are off. Like I said, the Lion and the Dark Angels, when they see a threat, they go in and they destroy it. And that is how he treated that situation. He didn't try to understand anybody. He didn't try to diplomacy or anything. Luther and all of his senior cadre had fully fallen to chaos, and Luther was elevated to the strength and power of a Primarch, thanks to the Chaos Gods. And then the Lion said, just, let's go. Blows up Caliban, just sends every single last piece of munition from his ship straight into Caliban. And it is nonstop, just constant bombardment. The only place that was safe was their fortress monastery because it had the best shields ever made by mankind. So the Lion and his loyalist Dark Angels go in and just start wrecking face. But you have to remember, only Luther and his senior cadre had fallen to chaos. The rest of them, some of them didn't even know what chaos was. Some of them thought the Lion had betrayed them. Some of them didn't even know what was going on. There was one scene in a recent book that I read where a guy a fallen actually recalled the Lion invading, and he said he saw the Lion rush into a room and cut down teenage initiates for the Dark Angels without skipping a beat, just ruthlessly murdered them before they even got a chance to react. And that, in a sense, is what the Lionel Johnson did through the whole of the Great Crusade.
Well, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready.
I guess that makes him more like Anakin if you think about it.
Yeah,
killing Padawans left and right.
It's a little bit of a mixed metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah,
which is a classic Imperium thing. Who is the good guy? Is the Lion the good guy? Because he may be Anakin in this thing.
I like
all
to think
the way
of
through.
I like to think of it. He's a young guy at this point who. He's all about principle, and things are black and white for him. And when you think of things in black and white, the ends will always justify the means.
Well, from my perspective, you are the enemy.
Exactly. So he goes in, and he fights through his own traitor, quote-unquote, sons, and then he gets to Luther. They have a big showdown. The planet starts to destabilize, and Luther wounds the Lion. The Lion wounds Luther. They both fall down, but Luther realizes, oh, dang, I'm free of Chaos Taint. I really messed up. I shouldn't have done any of this. And then the Chaos Gods decide to blow up the whole planet. And
yeah, because they end up leaving just the fortress, right?
Yes.
Like it's just floating around.
That would become the Rock, the fortress citadel spaceship of the current Dark Angels.
Does it move around and stuff?
Yes, it is a giant ship.
They just roll the whole rock up to wherever
because the shield protected it.
I see.
They turned it into a ship. Yeah,
neat.
But these fallen angels, except for Luther, all get thrown into the warp, and come out at different points in time. And because of this...
In time?
Yes. Because we all know, as we say every podcast, the warp messes with the timeline.
Well, because the other Traitor Legions and their Primarchs, they didn't come out in various times, right? They just went into the warp, were many of them transfigured into the sort of, Angron demon and all these kind of things.
Yeah. Well,
and then they just exited, as...
Well, some Primarchs
Plague
were
Marines
found
and
sooner
things.
than others, so the Great Crusade was like hundreds of years, so it could have been a lot of different points. Some were found pretty quick. Anyways, Luther sits down and realizes he's messed up. The Dark Angels apprehend him. The Watchers in the Dark take the Lion and secret him away into the warp. The Watchers in the Dark were these small little Jawa-looking dudes.
Yeah, they're like the what's the guy from Masters of the Universe?
Oh yeah, that guy. I don't know that.
That's
dude.
a throwback.
That is a throwback.
That is a throwback.
The weird little robe dude with the hat.
Yeah. Little 80s cartoon action.
So they were native to Caliban. They kind of, when the bombardment happened, they looked like they got something sensed into them, and then they snuck away. And nobody could find any corpses of them afterwards. So
do they reside like hidden on the rock?
They still are living on the rock. And it is against Dark Angel rules to lift up their hoods. It's upon pain of death. So no one knows what they are.
Fuzzy under there.
No one knows what they are. They're very scary, but they kind of help out and carry helmets and weapons for the current Dark Angels. Anyways, Luther gets taken into custody, and only the chapter master of the Dark Angels knows about him. The rest of the Fallen go flying into the warp and come out at different points in time, which I think makes for great storytelling.
Well, it makes for all sorts of shenanigans, doesn't it?
Oh, it does.
Like all of a sudden you've got a fallen assassin showing up in, 27,000.
Oh, yeah.
Messing with who knows what.
And remember what I said about mind state, about the mental state of these legions. The Dark Angels went in, they killed the bad stuff, and deleted it, and then they would move on. They did their duty.
And from the perspective of the Fallen, the bad stuff is the Imperium and the Lion and all of that righteous indignation that they tend to exhibit.
Some thought that the Lion betrayed them. Some didn't. Some thought something went wrong. No one knows. But they would pop out at different points of time. Some of them would get captured by the Dark Angels immediately. Some wouldn't. And there was never really even a list, so we don't even know how. I think there was 30,000 on Caliban when they were sent back. So the current Dark Angels took that whole mindset they had from that point, and they had just ridden it hard and fast, nonstop for the last 10,000 years, because not only do they want to cover up the shame of having brothers who have fallen to chaos, but they also have that thing where they're like, there's the bad thing, kill it. But for 10,000 years straight, I mean, that's going to drive anyone crazy.
Right.
So they will drop anything in the middle of a battle, no matter what, if they hear anything about a mysterious space marine running through a battlefield anywhere in black armor with a hood on, and they're like, they've literally lost loyalist successor chapters that have like popped up, and then the Inquisition's like, hey, what are you doing here? Nobody knows about this place. And they're like, bye, and they leave. And then they get declared traitors. But Dark Angels, they're like, we know why they were there. They're good guys. Let's help them out, but not tell anybody. So, you could have been a Dark Angel who was fighting on Caliban on Luther's side. Things got crazy. You think the Lion betrayed you, and then you pop out on, I don't know, a normal Imperial world. And it's been 100 years. Okay, but then all of a sudden, here comes more Dark Angels, and then you ask for an explanation. Well, guess what?
You're not getting one.
You're not getting one. They take you, they throw you in a cell, torture you repetitively for who knows how long, until finally you repent for your sins just to make the pain stop. And then they kill you. And that is the driving force behind the current Dark Angels. Now, some Fallen have only just recently, 10,000 years, come out. Some have been around for hundreds of years. Some have been around for thousands. Some fell to chaos. Some stayed loyal. It just depends. I read Son of the Forest, Lion, Son of the Forest recently, and it gives you a great perspective of most of these guys. One of them, he was a librarian. He lost his arm, and when the Fallen tried to recruit him, he said, "No, thanks, man. I'm a hermit." Doesn't wear his armor. He just walks around like Thanos.
Like Thanos post-snap?
Yeah, Thanos post-snap, just on a farm in the woods, living like a hermit. Doesn't want anything to do with anything.
Wild.
Some of them gather fleets of ships that they can find, and then they become pirates. Yeah. Some fall to chaos and become demon princes and try to take over worlds and reap vengeance on the Imperium.
And then my favorite one, and I am looking for this model. If anybody's got one they want to send.
Oh, boy. Cypher?
Cypher.
Yeah,
Who
Cypher.
the heck is he? What is going on?
Interesting facts about Cypher. There was a role in the old Calibanite Order, a role called the Cypher. You would forsake your name from the beginning and just be called Cypher. Then you would work with the Calibanite Knights and represent the Order. The first one on record died. The second one was a young guy who took up his place. The third went missing, and this was around the time of Luther, but then he was found and died. But now we have a guy calling himself Cypher who no one knows. Everyone knows he's a fallen Dark Angel, well, except for, everyone that's not a Dark Angel.
Right, because he's wearing the costume.
He's sneaky. He's broken out of situations I never thought he would get out of. He gets captured, he gets out, and then he's never seen again.
Is it possible that Cypher, for whatever reason, or whoever calls himself Cypher, is able to just time travel at will?
It's a good possibility. The Dark Angels were trusted with so many relics and artifacts. You see him running around with a bolt pistol and a plasma pistol and a sword on his back that's too big for a Space Marine, and he never uses the sword. Ever.
And that sword is the Emperor's sword, is it
No,
not?
that's the Lion's sword.
That's the Lion's sword.
Yeah.
Not the one that he carries like in the new model with his
Nope.
return.
That's his old one. And no one knows how he got it. No one knows why he doesn't use it. And they've found records and histories of him popping up and supporting loyalist forces, traitor forces, going back maybe a couple thousand years. No one knows when he first started. So nobody knows when he came out of the warp. Nobody knows his name. Nobody knows what he wants. And recently he's popped up and even helped Gilliman.
This is the part where Shane raises his hand.
What do you want, Shane? Yeah.
Are we sure he's not Luther?
No, he is not Luther because the Dark
Luther
Angel
is confirmed dead.
No, Luther was taken into custody by the Dark Angels. The only one who knew about him being in a cell was the chapter master or the Grand Master of the Dark Angels. He was kept in cryo-freeze, and every time a new chapter master is appointed of the Dark Angels, he is given the key, which is his sword, to the cell. They interview Luther and torture him, and then put him back. Sometimes they'll bust him out for information to see if he knows anything about the Fallen. But recently, a chaos invasion happened on the Rock, and somebody found an open door. So Luther has now escaped, and there have been rumors and whispers of Fallen gathering somewhere out there in the warp with Luther at the head.
Does he have a model?
I wish he had a model. I would love to see his model.
He sounds so cool.
He sounds like an old school knightly dude who looks kind of middle aged, and he's been around for 10,000 years.
And let me tell you, I can paint me some black armor, and
yeah,
I like faces. I don't like to do. I do as few helmets as possible. I'm a team no helmet.
Yeah,
but man, I could do some hoods.
So in the recent lore, the Lion has reappeared. Turns out he has a new warp power that allows him to sort of teleport. And apparently...
It sounds like a familiar attribute.
Yeah, and he pops up wherever he thinks he wants to be. And then, rumors have abounded of a giant of the Imperium, a giant knight or swordsman or mysterious foggy creature who pops up and destroys the monsters and creatures that threaten the Imperium. And that's kind of the theme, the Lion. He fights the monsters.
Which we've covered the Lion.
Yeah.
Is it
So he has actually been gathering Fallen in his spare time, getting his forces back and forgiving them.
I raise my hand again.
Go for it.
Are we sure that Cypher hasn't been the Lion while he slept?
It's so interesting to think about that because some Primarchs can alter your perception of who they are. And it's like, what if he's been sleepwalking and this is like a dual personality? What is going on?
Yeah.
But
or what if Luther has been blipping out of his cryostasis and doing stuff?
Okay, you locked the door. I'm just going to go for a walk.
Yeah.
That'd be...
I'm just going to warp out of here and go do my thing.
That'd be pretty cool.
And then I'll be back here next time you guys need me, because if he can travel space and time at will, like Cypher appears to be able to, then why wouldn't he?
No, and Cypher is nowhere to be found right now. No one, not since he helped out Gilliman. The Lion, like, I read this book and I was like, where
I don't think that
Cypher
Mugs can be found on the GW website either.
Dude, he's got a sick model. He plays pretty good in the game. But
yeah, he makes your stratagems more expensive.
In the book that I was reading, a lot of different Fallen have such good stories. Like, there was a guy, he was a Fallen. He came out about 300 years ago out of the warp. And he's been protecting a small village for as long as he can remember. But he's been running and fighting and trying to escape the Dark Angels to try not to be captured and tortured. He teams up with the Lion, becomes one of the Forgiven, and then he runs into another Fallen who has become a pirate and of a vast fleet of his own that like steals from the Imperium sometimes because honestly they don't really respect what the Imperium has become. And he's like, dude, what is going on? He's like, man, I just got out 30 years ago. So, and he was his trainer. He taught him how to be a Dark Angel, and he was like only 30 years older. He himself had been aged 300 more years.
Wow.
And back in the day during the Great Crusade, they didn't really keep track of age because if you were a Space Marine, 400 would be a good stint, and then you die. But man, they even run into a Tech Marine, 700 years old. Yeah, and he's a Tech Marine, so he's using a lot of mechanics to keep himself alive. But his skin's like haggard and pale and droopy. Meanwhile, the Lion, he hears their story, each of them, and he's like, "Okay, I'm going to forgive you, but only if you forgive me and we work together." Because neither of them knew who shot first. The Lion thought Luther shot first. The Fallen thought the Lion had betrayed them and shot first. And some were like still loyal to him and were like, dude, I'm going to serve you no matter what. Others were like, I'm going to do my own thing, but if it lines up with yours, let's go. So I'm eager to see where this goes. Now the Lion is in the current era Indomitus in the 40K setting, and he has set up a small empire of planets that he has saved, and he is protecting from actually other Fallen that are evil.
News. I have news.
What do you have?
Cypher? In stock, $35 on GW website.
Yes, get us both one, guys. Like, send us both one, because I've always wanted to paint one of those.
Yeah, I might have to get one of those.
They look really cool. You used to be able to put them in a Loyalist or a Chaos army. Now I think it's just...
he goes with my dudes.
Yeah, he goes with Chaos only now. Used to, they had Fallen models, and it was just looked like a Dark Angels command squad, Firstborn.
Yeah, I don't know if the Fallen unit is a thing anymore. I don't know.
I'd love if they updated it, and I'd like to play them if I played more Chaos.
Yeah, as I remember, the Fallen unit looked kind of chunky.
Yeah,
like they had that old, Firstborn kind of clunk look to them.
True.
Like you know what they looked like?
What?
They looked like those. They looked like those old Astra Militarum like squads.
Yeah,
like a lot of headbands,
really goofy.
Yeah, a lot of headbands and big elbows.
And current day Dark Angels have as far as the lore has caught up, and we've got the Arcs of Omen come out. The Lion shows up, fights Angron, big battle ensues, and they actually see that Vashtor, the new Chaos God on the scene, has been collecting chunks of Caliban and turning it into a demon world of his own machinations.
Neat.
Of machinery and smog and forges. And the Dark Angels see this as blasphemy, so they automatically want to destroy it. The Lion shows up, and he's like, let's fight. Fights all that stuff and kills them. And then it ends right when he says hello to his new 40K Dark Angel sons. And I am like, are you serious? We've been waiting for this for decades, and we don't get it? Oh, I was so mad. I'm telling you, man, I was so mad. Oh, man.
There was also a Cypher book.
Yes, I'm eager to read it. It's on my bucket list. It looks cool. It's not an audiobook, but it is hardback, and the cover looks dope.
It does look dope.
Words coming straight from the guy himself.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's him recounting his stories and his life. I don't know what exactly goes into in detail, but I'm eager to hear it.
Yeah, I wonder if who he is revealed. I guess it is not.
Dude, if the only way that he could probably get revealed
that'd be a fine bit of storytelling.
If he ran into the Lion, because a lot of these fallen dudes, before they got cast in the warp, they had iconography, and the Lion will run into one, and he'll be like, "Okay, you were in this company, this squad, this faction of the Dark Angels. I know you from your armor." Cypher has completely stripped his armor of everything that can identify him. Only thing are those two pistols and the sword.
So fun. And I cannot get enough characters in my army.
Get Cypher.
I don't know what I'm going to do. At some point,
isn't he a CP farm now?
No, he's a CP coster. So he does the thing where you use a stratagem, and then from that point on, it costs one more.
No,
but he does a lot of auto shooting. So if you get close to him, he gets to just shoot.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
It's fun.
So what do you think about the Fallen? You think I did a good job telling you about it?
I think I learned a lot. I think. Well, the Fallen are an interesting one, right? The Fallen and Cypher.
Yeah, I mean, they're very complicated. They're not good. They're not bad.
Well, you learn a lot, and what you learn is that nobody knows anything.
Yeah, it's like you get left with more questions than answers.
That's right. We spent a good 5 minutes just speculating wildly at who Cypher could be, and then the rest of the Fallen are just a bunch of dudes potentially time traveling, potentially sped out. We don't know.
Some are even demon princes.
Well, for instance, let's say Cypher finds some Fallen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, does that mean the whole squad now is going to jump through time and pop up, wreck and shop who knows where? Who knows?
Yeah, like I said, some squads of Fallen have popped out together only 30 years ago. Some have been around for hundreds. And all of these 10,000 years, the Dark Angels have relentlessly hunted them down and tortured them for information on more Fallen. And sometimes I like this bit of lore. They actually leave if you walk by a tree and you see a carving, a Fallen might know what that means, and then it could lead him to more Fallen.
No, they've got the D&D Thieves Camp going on.
Dude, seriously, it's so cool. They're like the Thieves Guild from Skyrim. Just
That's
little
great.
hidden things to find their secret underground societies and stuff. It's so cool.
I really like the idea of their impractical hoods and capes. Yeah, I mean,
it's impractical to us baseline humans.
Well, I mean, just messing up your peripheral vision and whatnot in the middle of these wild battlefields. But
the Fallen are such a
drip above all else.
True. If it looks good, rule of cool.
Rule of cool is all I do in this 40K thing, man.
Yeah. But that's the Fallen. I hope that you and our listeners have learned a little bit more about this faction and what we can expect in the future.
Don't forget to get your tickets to the NEA Gamers Fest. If you have an event that you would like us to shout out, at this stage, we just need stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
It would cost you nothing for us to talk about your event.
Hit us up on Twitter.
We don't care where it is.
Yeah, on all our socials.
We can talk about 4 or 5 of them. I can rattle them off.
Yeah, you don't have to be in the same state. We can talk about whatever.
We can talk about an event in Uzbekistan. I don't care.
I mean, we've got 2 guys listening to us in Austria right now.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. We're getting around.
They had a very controversial Grand Prix last week.
I don't know sports, but I'll just have to take your word for it.
I don't know 40K lore, so I'm taking your word for it.
I mean, yeah.
I've been Shane.
And I'm Casey from the Grimdark Garage.
Which is now the Grimdark
Painting Studio.
It is very dark.
A Grimdark, one would say.
I'm going to bring you a couple light bulbs next time, maybe.
They're weird light bulbs.
Yeah, Casey's got a fan with those little small sockets, so we don't know what to do with that.
But thanks for listening to us, guys. Hopefully you can tell your friends about us and spread us out. Thanks again, and we'll see you out there. Peace.